Hey everybody, it's Michael here. I just wanted to jump in on this quick video with this topic of the healing power of grace. You know, so many of us have so many problems and challenges in life, and when we are on a spiritual path consciously, like probably all of you watching this video are, we begin to ask different questions. You know, people who are not on a conscious spiritual path just blame and they wonder why life is against them and they have all these problems, and it gets a buildup of anger and frustration and projection because there's no higher or larger context that many people have around these problems in life. And so when we're on a spiritual path, or for many of us when we're on a religious path, we begin to have this idea of God or of spirit, and we say that in God or in spirit there's something different that can happen, something different other than just the logical, sequential nature of the karma or the pain or the problems that we have. We see there's some sort of new factor, and sometimes that factor is called grace. And this term grace can refer to an instantaneous healing, an instantaneous release, that's beyond the level of just the logical, that's beyond the level of just the mind, that's beyond the level of just the five sense human reality. You know, I think we're here in this physical reality. We've come into this physical world, this world of five senses, in order to see that life experienced through simply just the five senses doesn't really make a lot of sense, and that there's some other hidden factor, almost a secretive spiritual factor, that all of us, no matter our path in life, we're all here to discover more of that, and we could call that God or we could call that spirit. But the qualities, when we go beyond just five sense limited material reality, that five sense reality tells us if we have a particular health challenge, then there's only so much we can do about that, or there is no cure. Or that five sense reality tells us that there's going to be a particular, there's a particular limited job market for whatever qualification we have, or we don't have enough education. That's a linear thinking. That's what this five sense reality, if we are only identified with our five physical senses, we're going to see life in a pretty limited way. And that's why life is so frustrating and so angering and difficult for so many people. So when we begin to go within, we begin to awaken. We might use the term God initially, and that's fine. We think of this ultimate reality. We call it God, we call it spirit. This ultimate reality, this place we call heaven sometimes, where there's no pain, there's no disease, there's no challenges, and everything works together harmoniously and lovingly. This place called God, called heaven, called spirit, on the path, we eventually learn that this is actually a place in consciousness. It's not a place that we go to. It's not someone else who's going to do something for us. It's a place of inner awareness and discovery. And the more that we open to that place of inner awareness and discovery, the more we come out of just the five physical sense reality, and we begin to live more in touch with this energy I'm calling grace. This means a spontaneous factor, a higher factor, a loving factor, a factor that doesn't make us have to simply live through the logical, sequential, karmic outcomes of the situations we may be experiencing in life now. So, working with a person today who was asking me to do some clearing work around this issue of having to learn the hard way. He was like, Michael, can we just clear around this issue, this situation of if I have a need in my soul to have to continue to learn things the hard way. And I thought about that a lot. I'm like, the hard way. How do we learn? How do we grow in life at all? Is it through the hard way? Is there some other way to learn? And I realized that, as I was saying, people who are not aware of spirit, they're not aware of this greater factor within themselves, this greater capacity, this more true, more holistic spiritual capacity within themselves, are living based on learning the hard way. That's the only way that they can learn. And there's very little change that happens in consciousness for most people in the course of any given lifetime that they're having. I think David Hawkins once said that the average person does not that there's an average person, but most of humanity doesn't make a shift in consciousness more than 5 points on his scale of consciousness within any given lifetime. Sometimes there might be a few factors that move people up rapidly. Those can sometimes be challenging factors in a negative way, or positive factors like the birth of a child or a marriage. It can also be a death. These kinds of things can raise people's consciousness, but they tend to come back quickly into their habitual state. So I realized that the only way to get out of living the hard way is to raise consciousness within yourself. Because God, Spirit, and also the solutions that you're looking for in life are all states of awareness and consciousness within you. That's where they emerge from. That's where the solutions come from. And by coming into alignment in consciousness with those higher fields, those fields that are out of the pack of normal human awareness, you are able to access this field of grace, where problems can begin to dissolve, spontaneous healings can begin to happen, seeming miracles can begin to happen. Now, is that because God somewhere is all of a sudden saying, well, you know what, that person down there, they're saying this prayer this number of times, and so I think I'm going to bless that person? No, it's not because of that. It is only a function of the increased consciousness within you. So, when someone first starts to hear this kind of message, they may say prayers, or they may begin to get into spiritual literature, or they may begin to have a little bit of silence or meditation. There's some factor, all of those practices begin to increase people's awareness. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to instantaneously relieve their suffering. It just means that it's going to increase their availability to divine grace. It's going to increase the potential within themselves for the miracles, for the spontaneous, for the cessation of the cycle of learning the hard way. So as we increase through any time we even say a prayer, anytime we take a moment, a conscious breath, anytime we read a piece of spiritual literature, anytime we serve someone else in a heartfelt way, we are raising our consciousness. And what happens then is that more of the old stuck karmic energy within us becomes available for transmutation at that point. This may sound a little bit technical, but this is kind of the basis of the work that I facilitate and why it actually helps people. Any type of spiritual clearing or healing work is not about the practitioner somehow fixing your problem. It's not also about God or Spirit, as it were, suddenly being convinced to give you a special favor. It's about what you have open to within yourself, but haven't fully resolved in consciousness. That area, and that's a vast, vast expanded area within you. That area, as it gets worked with through spiritual clearing work, gets worked with over time. Meditation is one of the traditional ways in which this large database that we have within us of all of the old energy, you could call it the karma, as that stuff begins to become more liberated, it begins to pour out of our subconscious, and we begin to work with it for resolving it, for clearing it. This is called karma clearing. We begin to experience life in a more free way, in a way that's more in alignment with our source, in alignment with Spirit. Now I'll say one more thing before I end this video. As difficult as this may be to hear initially, something I heard once, and now I really understand why this is, that there is no disease in spirit. In other words, God does not know disease. God does not know poverty. God does not know heartache. These things are not, do not happen, are not actually real in spirit. They don't exist at that level. So in other words, ultimate source within yourself does not know of the problems that you're having. That may sound a little bit weird and cold to say something like that, but it's actually really liberating, because remember that spirit is really the essence of who you are. And all of the blockages, all the reasons why we're having challenges in life now are simply because of energy that we have created that is limiting to us over the course of our soul's history. That's called our karma. As that energy gets resolved, problems in life don't get suddenly fixed. What begins to happen is that the problems themselves begin to dissolve in the energy of spirit, the energy that you already are, the true energy of love, of spirit, of all needs met. The energy that is already within you, it's just been suppressed under this surface of old karmic material for a while. That begins to naturally come to the surface once again. And as your consciousness rises, as the spiritual essence that you already are begins to be more liberated, you begin to feel freer. You begin to experience in your life more of those spontaneous miracles, more of that healing, more of that love, more of the reconciliation. All the areas of life where you felt like there were challenges and problems begin to transform, begin to shift. We're not trying to fix a problem in a clearing session. I would say that most spiritual clearing and healing facilitators of some kind know this, that people come into the work because they're having a challenge somehow, but our goal isn't necessarily to fix the challenge per se. Our goal is to help quicken the person's spirit, so to speak, to help facilitate the release, the resolution, the transmutation of the old programming that's within the person's consciousness, so that ultimately they can achieve and come to a higher level of consciousness. When we come into a higher level of consciousness, we are in a place more aligned with God. We're in a place more aligned with spirit. We are revealing spirit as our lives more. We're listening to what spirit is saying more. We're more harmonized with that energy. And so instantaneously, much like you hear about the stories of Jesus, Jesus wouldn't have to figure out a lot of things for people that he was helping. He was a clear conduit for that realization of spirit. And so spontaneous miracles would just begin to happen in his presence. And this, I would say, really is the destiny for each of us. We're here to clear out the old stuff, so that we can begin to come more into harmony with the energy that spirit already is. That's the energy of grace. That's the energy of miracles. That's the energy of problems already solved before they start, or as they are happening, they begin to get resolved more quickly. That's the energy of not having to learn the hard way. We've all had it with learning the hard way, I would say. We've all hit our head against the wall so many times around so many issues in life. And just the fact that you're watching this video, just the fact that we're having this conversation, means that there is a substantial amount of awakening already within you. You're accessing, there's parts of your being that are accessing higher places in consciousness already. Now you, as a being, may not be fully stabilized in all areas of your being yet in those higher areas. And that's why there can be some challenges and problems still remaining in life. But as you still continue to listen, as you develop yourself, as you clear out the old stuff, as you resolve the old karma, as you continue to engage in practices like prayer and meditation and sacred service and just in sacred visioning, listening to the inner spirit within you, and ask, what is mine to do today? As you begin to cultivate these practices, your life begins to reflect more of what Spirit has been doing all along, what Source has been doing all along, what God has been doing all along. As I said a moment ago, God, Spirit, Source doesn't know anything about your problems. I heard this said from Joel Goldsmith many years ago, and I didn't understand what he meant. He said that you can't pray to God for more money because God doesn't know anything about money. And I said, what does that mean? Isn't ultimate source, isn't God the author of money? And all he was saying through that audio was that spirit is consciousness. Spirit is not necessarily a particular outcome happening in your life experience. So we don't pray for just the outcome. We pray, we open ourselves, we release, we clear, so that we can become a more conscious place, a more flowing place where divine grace can dwell. And as that energy begins to move through us more and more regularly, more fully, our life results, like money, like health, like relationships, like career, begin to reflect the shift that we're having in consciousness. So just to sum up, divine grace, it's not something we have to acquire. It's something we have to release into. It's always available. Everything good that Spirit has ever given, is ever done, is available to you, through you right now. It's not going to happen by praying for it, by asking or begging some other being to give it to you. It's only going to happen by a shift within your consciousness. Now, because we have put a lot of stuff that is very limiting into our consciousness over our very long soul's history, there can be a lot to unwind there, and that's where spiritual practices and spiritual clearing technology really come in. The more we clear, we begin to feel better, we begin to feel more quickened by divine grace within us. The more that we feel that way, all of a sudden we awaken to the solution within our own being. We feel in alignment with the solution. We feel like we know what to do. We know who to connect with. We feel like the energy is already created within us for the particular outcome that we're looking for. And that's the power of divine grace flowing through us. So let's just take a deep breath. And I want you to just feel your body for a moment. There is a powerful spiritual energy emerging from this recording already. If you just let it in, it will work with you. And I want you to just let go of everything you've been carrying. Let it go. You don't have to learn the hard way anymore. There's no one telling you that you have to learn the hard way. There might be an old voice from your parents kind of coming into your head right now, or an old voice where you believed that it's only through being stressed out or having problems all the time that you earn your worthiness. But remember, there's always another way, and this is the way of spirit. This is the way of higher consciousness. As we relax and let go into that higher space, all the qualities of spirit, which includes flow, all needs met, abundance, things working out harmoniously, getting healthier with age, getting wealthier with age, becoming more loving, greater synchronicities, things just spontaneously working out in your favor, increased opportunities for you to identify and develop your gifts. These are the qualities of spirit, and they're the qualities everyone ultimately is wanting. So relax the body, relax the mind, and just see if you can begin to feel, even with a small part of you right now, the movement of divine grace wanting to have its way with you. Call it whatever you want. You can call it spirit, you can call it God, you can call it angels, you could call it Jesus, you could call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter the name, because it's a universal presence. And it's fully where you are right now. It's actually you. It's actually the truth about you. It's fully present as your being right now, every cell. God could not be more present with you right now. There's no way that spirit could be, somehow more of it could be with you. It's fully present everywhere. That's one of the qualities of spirit, of God. It's fully present everywhere. Just tune your awareness to that now. That's what all the spiritual practices are. Now, I'm saying these things to you, but for most of us, there's at least some of our being that doesn't believe that thinks, oh, wait a minute, I'm my body, I'm my history, I'm my job. This is the spiritual path. The spiritual path is about helping us to realize that we are actually spirit. We always have been spirit. And so we're not here to acquire more of spirit. We're not even really here to acquire more of the outcomes of spirit, which include abundance and health. We're here to just reveal more of who we already are. That means clearing out the old stuff, rising in consciousness, becoming more available to divine grace. And as we do that, spirit begins to live our life more. And so what happens is, spirit isn't coming in to fix our problems, but we are raising our consciousness. We're coming back into a realization of spirit. We're releasing blocks. And from that place of higher consciousness, the problems, the blocks begin to spontaneously resolve. Our circumstances in life, our life experiences begin to reflect the change in consciousness that we have had. So as you entertain a more abundance consciousness, your life circumstances begin to reflect and reveal that. As you begin to entertain more and more of a health consciousness, of a right livelihood consciousness, your results eventually will begin more and more as you put that shift in consciousness into action, as you continue to clear and resolve and open yourself. Your results in life will begin to reflect that state of consciousness more. So divine grace, something to tap into within your being right now. And here's the thing, we've got to make space to tap into it every day. Keep clearing, keep resolving, keep letting go of the old. Realize that all of your answers are really within yourself, and they're all about raising a state of consciousness, not to a place of being ungrounded New Ager, but to a place where you really, in your bones, you really sense the truth of who you are. We step out of just 5 sense reality. We step into the truth of who we are, and our challenges in life begin to get resolved, and we become a channel for resolving those challenges for others. So just take a deep breath, friends. Thanks for joining me on this little ramble. I appreciate it. If you want to get in touch with me, any questions you have about what I've said, or any areas where you're feeling challenges or struggle in life, please feel free to contact me, either posting below this video or going to my website, clearandconnect.com. Happy to hear from you. Thanks, friends. Have a beautiful evening.